immerse ourselves within Greek philosophy, we shall continue where we left off with physical education. The next stage in the training of our young men will be physical education, and here again they must be carefully trained from childhood onwards. I have my own opinions about it. Let me see if you agree. In my view, physical excellence does not itself produce good character. On the other hand, excellency of mind and character will make the best of the physique it is given. What do you think? I agree. We should do well, then, to leave the elaboration of rules for physical training to minds that have been thoroughly educated. All we need do, for brevity's sake, is to give a rough outline. Yes. We have already forbidden drink. A guardian is the last person in the world to get drunk and not know where he is. It would be absurd, he replied, for a guardian to need someone to look after him. What about diet? Our guardians, you will agree, are competing in the most important of all contests. Should they train like ordinary athletes? Perhaps so. But the athlete in training is a sleepy creature, and his health is delicately balanced. Haven't you noticed how they sleep most of their time, and how the smallest deviation from their routine leads to serious illness? Yes, I have noticed that. So we shall need a better adjusted form of training for our soldier athletes. They must be as wakeful as watchdogs. Their sight and hearing must be of the keenest, and their health must not be too delicate to endure the many changes of food and drink, and the varieties of temperature that campaigning entails. I agree. And do you not also agree that the best form of physical training would be one akin to the simple education we have just been describing? What do you mean? I mean a suitably simple physical training, concentrating particularly on training for war. In what way? Even Homer can tell you that, I replied, for you know that when his heroes are on campaign, he does not give them fish to eat, although they are on the shore of the Hellespont, nor boiled meat, but only roast. That is what suits soldiers best, because it is, generally speaking, easier to cook something direct on the fire than carry around pots and pans for the purpose. Much easier. And Homer, I think, never mentions seasonings. Indeed, even the ordinary athlete knows that if he is to be fit, he must keep off them, and he is quite right to do so. In that case, I assume that you don't approve of the luxury of Syracusan and Sicilian cooking. I should think not. And what about Corinthian girlfriends? Do you disapprove of them for men who want to keep fit? I certainly do. An Attic confectionery, which is supposed to be so good, must go too. It must. We might, I think, with justice, compare these luxurious ways of living and eating with the music and song which used a wide range of harmony and rhythm. Elaborate music, we found, produces indiscipline, and elaborate food produces disease, but simplicity in music produces discipline of character, and simplicity in physical education, health of body. Very true. And the prevalence of indiscipline and disease in a community leads, does it not, to the opening of law courts and surgeries in large numbers, and law and medicine begin to give themselves airs, especially when they are paid so much attention, even by free men. That is bound to happen. And when not only the lower classes and workers, but also those who have some pretentious education, need skilled doctors and lawyers, that is a pretty conclusive proof that the education in a state is thoroughly bad. For is it not a scandalous sign of a bad education if one's sense of right and wrong is so deficient that one has to seek justice at the hands of others as one's masters and judges? I can't think of anything worse, he said. Yet it's worse still, don't you think? I replied. When a man not only spends most of his life in court as plaintiff or defendant, but is even ignorant enough to be proud of it, when he is convinced that he is an expert lawbreaker up to every kind of twist, and that he knows all the tricks tricks to wriggle out of a conviction. And all this for mean and unworthy ends, without any idea how far better it is to arrange one's life so that one has no need of a judge dozing on the bench. Yes, he agreed, that's still worse. And it's disgraceful too to need a doctor, not only for injury or regular disease, but because by leading the kind of life we have described, we have filled our bodies with gases and discharges, like a stagnant pool, and driven the medical profession to invent names for our diseases, like flatulence and catarrh. Don't you agree? I do indeed, he replied. These newfangled names for diseases are very far-fetched. And I don't think you would have found them in the days of Asclepius, I added. Also, I should judge from the fact that when Eurypylus was wounded at Troy, and given Pramnian wine mixed with barley meal and grated cheese to drink, a mixture you would have thought would have given him a fever, the sons of Asclepius had no fault to find with the woman who gave him the drink, or with Patroclus who prescribed it. And yet it was an odd prescription for a wounded man, he said. I don't think so, I replied, for it was not till the days of Herodicus, so they say, that doctors made use of modern methods of nursing disease. Herodicus was an athletic trainer whose health failed, and he proceeded to make first and foremost himself, and then many others after him, miserable by a combination of medicine and physical training. How did he do that? By dying a lingering death. His whole attention was devoted to a disease that was mortal. He could not cure himself of it, but spent the rest of his life busy doctoring himself, and made wretched by any departure of his routine treatment, and his skill prolonged the struggle till he was an old man. What a reward to win, and quite a suitable one for a man who did not know it was not from ignorance or lack of skill that Asclepius did not reveal this method of treatment to his successors, but because he knew that in a well-run society each man has a job which he must do, and has no time to spend his life in ill and undergoing curses. We see that this applies to the working class, and even it is absurd not to see that it also applies to the wealthy and privileged as we think them. Explain, he said. If a carpenter is ill, I replied, and goes to a doctor, he expects to be given an emetic or purge and be cured, or to get rid of the trouble by an operation. If he is ordered to undergo a long cure, wrapping his head up and all that sort of thing, he will probably say that he has no time to be ill, and that a life in which one must give up all one's attention to one's ailments and none to one's proper job is simply not worth living. Then he will diminish the doctor who has given the advice, go back to his normal routine, and either regain his health and get on with his job, or, if his constitution won't stand it, die and be rid of his troubles. That's the right way for that sort of man to treat medical advice, he agreed. The reason being, I said, that he has a job to do, and if he does not do it, life is not worthwhile. Yes, clearly. But hasn't the rich man a job to do which will make his life not worth living if he can't do it? He isn't usually reckoned to have. You haven't listened to Thucydides, was my reply, who said that when a man no longer has to work for his living, he should practice excellence. I should have thought he might start even earlier, he said. Don't let's start a quarrel with him about that, I returned. Let us ask ourselves whether the rich man should make this his job, and whether his life was worth living if he can't carry on with it. Valetudinarianism prevents a man giving his attention to carpentry and similar occupations. Is it also a hindrance to obeying Thucydides' orders? It certainly is a hindrance. There's nothing worse than this fussiness about one's health in excess of normal healthy exercise. It's tiresome in the home as well as in the army or in any civilian office. Worst of all, it makes any kind of study or thought or meditation difficult. If you are always wondering if you've got a headache or are feeling giddy, then blaming your studies for it, you will never be able to exercise your mind or test your abilities. You'll always think you're ill and never stop worrying about your health. That is what is likely course he was, said I, and that is why we find that his sons are good soldiers at Troy and doctor people in the way I am describing. You'll remember how, when Menelaus was wounded by Pandarus, they sucked out the blood and skillfully applied soothing ointments, but they gave him no further orders about diet, any more than they did to Eurypylus, for they thought that ointments were enough to cure a man who had lived a normal, healthy life, whatever he drank after treatment. The life of a man whose constitution was bad and undermined by loose living was, they thought, of no use to them or to anyone else. It was not their business to use their skill on such cases or cure them, even if they were richer than Midas. Discerning men, these sons of Asclepius. Which is as it should be, I said, but Pindar and the tragedians don't believe us, and say that Asclepius was a son of Apollo, that he was bribed by a large fee to cure a rich man who was at death's door, and blasted by a thunderbolt in consequence. But we cannot, if we are to be consistent, agree with them on both counts. If he was a god, he was not out for profit, and if he was out for profit, he was not a god. All that is very true, but tell me, Socrates, he asked, surely we shall need good doctors in our state, and good doctors are those who have the widest experience in treating patients, both in health and sickness, just as good judges are those who have mixed with all sorts of people. We certainly need good doctors, I answered, but do you know what I mean by good? I shall, if you tell me. I will try, but your question does not admit of a single answer. What do you mean? The best way for a doctor to acquire skill is to have, in addition to his knowledge of medical science, as wide and as early an acquaintance as possible with serious illness. In addition, he should have experienced all kinds of disease in his own person, and not be of an altogether healthy constitution, for doctors don't use their bodies to cure other people. If so, they could not allow their health to be bad. They use their minds, and if they're defective mentally, their treatment can't be good. True, but with a judge it's a matter of mind controlling mind, and the mind must not be brought up from its youth to associate with wickedness, or to run through a whole range of crimes in order to get first-hand experience on which to judge them in other people, as the doctor did with diseases of the body. On the contrary, the mind must, while it is still young, remain quite without experience or contact with bad characters, if its moral development is to be good and its moral judgment sound. That is why people of good character seem simple when they are young, and are easily taken in by dishonesty, because they have in themselves nothing to give them a sympathetic understanding of vice. That is a common experience, he agreed. Which is why a good judge must not be a young man, I replied, but an old one to whom knowledge of wickedness has come late in life, not as a feature he perceives in his own character, but as an evil whose effects he has learned after long practice to discern in other people, something about which he knows, but of which he has no personal experience. A man like that would be a real judge indeed, and a good one, which is what you asked, I pointed out, for he has the qualities of mind that are needed. But your wily, knowing type, who has been up to all sorts of tricks and has a reputation for super smartness, looks pretty formidable so long as he is dealing with men like himself, against whom his own bad principles put him on his guard. But when he comes up against men of good character, he looks very silly with his untimely suspicions and the unawareness of what honesty is that he owes to his own bad principles. But he meets more rogues than honest men, and so appears a clever fellow, and not a silly one, but to himself and others. That's perfectly true, he said. We must not look to this type whose psychological constitution is incurably wrapped, they will put to death. That seems to be the best thing for the both for the individuals concerned and for society. And so I said, your young men, so long as they maintain their simple form of education, which, as we have said, breeds discipline, will take care not to need judicial treatment. True. And if they successfully follow on the same track in their physical training, they will never need a doctor except in cases of necessity. I agree. It is, of course, to stimulate their energy and initiative that they undergo these severities in their training, not merely to make themselves tough, which is the object of the diet and exercises of the ordinary athletes. And that, my dear Glaucon, I went on, is why I say that the purpose of the two established types of education, literary and physical, is not, as some suppose, to deal one with the mind and the other with the body. What is it then? He asked. I think that perhaps in the main both aim at training the mind. And how do they do that? Have you noticed, I asked, how a lifelong devotion to physical exercise and to the exclusion of anything else produces a certain type of mind, just as a neglect of it produces another type? One type tends to be tough and uncivilized, the other soft and oversensitive, and yes, I have noticed that, he broke in. Excessive emphasis on athletics produces a pretty uncivilized type, with a purely literary and academic training leaves a man with less backbone than is decent. It is the energy and initiative in their nature that make them seem uncivilized, I said. If you treat it properly, it should make them brave, but if you overstrain it, it turns them tough and uncouth, as you would expect. I agree, he said. The philosophic temperament, on the other hand, is gentle. Too much relaxation may produce an excessive softness, but if it is treated properly, the result should be civilized and humane. That is so. Now we agreed that our guardians must have both these elements in their nature, did we not? Yes. And must not the two elements be combined to produce a mind that is civilized and brave, as opposed to cowardly and uncivilized? That is so. So when a man surrenders to the charms of music, and lets the sound of the sweet, soft, and mournful strains we have described flood into his soul, and gives up all his time to the pleasures of song, the effect at first on this energy and initiative of mind, if he has any, is to soften it as iron is softened in a furnace, and made workable instead of hard and unworkable. But if he does not break the enchantment, the next stage is that it melts and runs, till the spirit has quite run out of him, and his mental guts, if I may so put it, are entirely removed, and he has become what Homer calls a feeble fighter. That is all very true. This result is one that follows quickly if he is naturally spiritless in the first place, but if he is a man of spirit, the effect is, by weakening his spirit to make him unstable, a man who flies into a rage at a trifle and calms down as quickly. His energy has degenerated into peevishness and ill temper and constant irritability. Exactly. On the other hand, there is the man who takes a lot of strenuous physical exercise and lives well, but has little acquaintance with literature or philosophy. The physical health that results from such a course first fills him with confidence and energy, and increases his courage. But if he devotes himself exclusively to it, and never opens a book, any capacity he may have for learning is weakened by being starved of instruction or inquiry, and by never taking part in any intelligent discussion, and becomes deaf and blind because its perceptions are never cleared and strengthened by use. That is what happens. And so he becomes an unintelligent Philistine with no useful reasoned conviction, and an animal addiction to settle everything by brute force. His life is of clumsy ignorance, unrelieved by grace or beauty. That describes him exactly. What I should say, therefore, is that these two methods of education seem to have been given by God to men to train our initiative and our reason. They are not